Buongiorno a tutti pagliacci e bentornati qui su questi lidi con la terza eccessiva e perversa stagione di Cinema degli Eccessi. Sei contento, Simo, che siamo alla terza stagione?
Ah, guarda, il mio psicologo è felicissimo.
Felicissimo.
Mamma mia, perché vedo quanti soldi verranno lo psicologo.
Anche il vostro bramerà più soldi. Spero stiate bene perché qui starete male, come sempre, come tutti gli anni dal 2012 probabilmente. Prima di cominciare un po' di informazioni di servizio. Allora, a livello di montaggio e insomma di tutto ciò che è visivo, questa stagione sarà più scarna delle altre perché ci vuole davvero troppo tempo per montare come si deve e alla fine siamo qui per il contenuto, per il content, no? Per ciò che abbiamo da dire, non quello che dobbiamo mostrare. Dove possibile ovviamente vi verrà mostrato più materiale possibile, soprattutto esterno, ma in generale sarà un editing più scarno per garantirvi più puntate semplicemente. E qui arriviamo alla regolarità a causa degli impegni della vita. Non credo di riuscire a garantirvi una puntata a settimana, tutte le domeniche, potrebbero essere a cadenza un po' indefinita, ma ci saranno e saranno di più dell'anno scorso che erano 21. Ma per esserci ci siamo tornati. Veniamo poi alla questione abbonamenti. Come avrete notato si sono incrementati i contenuti dedicati solo agli abbonati, per esempio la versione estesa della top 10 a top 50 del 2024, la flop, caricherò le nostre vecchie live e poi gli shorts dedicati solo agli abbonati da 2,99 € in su. Gli abbonati che io ringrazio tantissimo, infinitamente ogni giorno della mia vita, hanno anche la possibilità di fare domande ai nostri intervistati, ai registi, come vedrete già dall'intervista di oggi. E a tal proposito, se questa rubrica continuerà, se ci sarà un Cinema degli Eccessi 4, sarete solo voi a deciderlo. Ora siamo a circa 120 abbonati, se entro la fine del 2025 raggiungeremo i 500 abbonati, vi bastano 99 centesimi, Cinema degli Eccessi 4 si farà, altrimenti dovrò obbligatoriamente concentrare le ore che ci metto a fare video all'altro lato, insomma, professionale della mia vita, che come molti di voi sanno è quello di psicologo e presto spero anche di psicanalista. Quindi nel caso non si raggiungano gli iscritti, il canale comunque rimarrà in piedi per qualche video saltuario e basta, e poi magari sicuramente mi concentrerò più sullo scrivere e sulla parte, insomma, fisica, sui libri.
Quindi se tutto muore è colpa vostra.
Esatto, sentitevi in colpa già da adesso.
È così che fa il suo lavoro lui, bravo.
Io sento già il profumo di morte di Cinema degli Eccessi, non so perché. Se poi volete diventare addirittura produttori di Cinema degli Eccessi 4 e avere il vostro nome nella sigla e ricevere una visita da parte mia e da parte nostra, se riusciamo, ovunque voi siate, c'è l'abbonamento a 49,99 €. Se lo mantenete per almeno un anno, vi giuro che vi vengo a trovare pure se siete in Mozambico. A ogni abbonamento da 49,90 abbassiamo anche, insomma, il goal di abbonati di 30, facciamo una cifra a cazzo di cane. A ogni livello di abbonamento però verrete ringraziati nei titoli di coda fin da questa stagione, questo è poco ma sicuro. Detto questo, basta con queste cose noiose, cominciamo finalmente con l'argomento di oggi. La seconda stagione di Cinema degli Eccessi era partita con l'intervista a Serjan Spasojevic, regista dell'amato e odiato A Serbian Film. Come celebrare l'inizio di questa terza stagione se non con un altro film amato, odiato e ovviamente incredibilmente estremo, come August Underground, la trilogia di August Underground, e con l'intervista al suo autore Fred Vogel. Ma non solo, parleremo anche e approfonditamente di tutta la sua carriera, ma in particolare del suo ultimo film, eccessivo ma totalmente diverso e inaspettato. I più affezionati di voi si ricorderanno la vecchia recensione sul film che feci oltre 10 anni fa, in cui criticai aspramente la trilogia definendola gratuita e cinematograficamente insulsa. Tempo dopo cambiai idea, se non sbaglio lo dissi anche in una live, sicuramente ne abbiamo parlato in una delle presentazioni del libro, e comunque nel libro non sono stato così distruttivo. Questo perché il risultato finale, soprattutto del Mordum, è la perfetta simulazione di snuff. e ce lo dirà anche il regista. Togliendo alcune limitazioni effettistiche per ovvie ragioni di budget, il resto sembra incredibilmente vero, talmente sporco e disgustoso da sembrare davvero diretto da dei pazzi assassini. Ma cos'è una simulazione di snuff a livello teorico? Uno snuff è un'opera audiovisiva che di per sé non è più arte, è un atto cinematografico ma non è cinema, e contenendo la morte si trasforma in un qualcosa di poco definito, che non è nemmeno documentario. Lo abbiamo visto nel libro parlando di Cannibal Holocaust in relazione alla reale uccisione degli animali. Lì però c'era lo strato di fiction e il testimoniare la morte e non rappresentarla, ma testimoniarla, aveva ancora un altro senso. Uno snuff è un atto cinematografico, per riprendere Brakhage, ma non è cinema, perché il cinema ci garantisce di sfuggire alla morte, perché quelle sullo schermo non sono morti reali. Viene automatico pensare che sia giusto, dovendo simulare un allontanamento dal cinema, girare August Underground in questa maniera. Ci voleva un livello che si distanziasse dall'arte per avvicinarsi all'atto, al performativo, più che al cinema. Ma non è che qualsiasi carrozzeria fatta senza arte né parte può essere considerata tale. Qui c'è il contesto, c'è anche una strana naturalezza degli attori, c'è il loro mettere in gioco totalmente il proprio corpo con la performance, non ai livelli di Larva Mental e Miguel Balerdi che si inchioda il pipo alle tavolette di legno, ma lì è solo performance ripresa. Vogel, coscientemente o no, ha realizzato qualcosa che a livello teorico, per i motivi appena detti, è molto valido. Il disgusto della violenza sessuale, del vomito, della necrofilia sono compresi nel pacchetto, tutto incollato con una sporcizia mai vista prima d'ora e mai più replicata in questo modo, se non in altri contesti, in storie totalmente diverse. Mi viene in mente The Green Elephant. L'apice del film e dello scavalcamento del sudicio nella nostra realtà è al minuto 43 circa, quando Maggot, un personaggio, guarda in camera mentre ha un rapporto con lo stomaco aperto di una povera malcapitata. Nudo e sporco guarda in camera, vuole essere visto. Da una parte si scorge la volontà di giovani cineasti di essere visti con un film del genere, di attirare l'attenzione anche se in maniera negativa. Molti di noi ci sono passati, farsi vedere dalle vecchiette in giro per le città di provincia con le borchie e le magliette dei Cannibal Corpse, è quella stessa roba. Dall'altra quel suo sguardo effettivamente inquietante, e bravo a lui e bravi agli attori, tutti molto convincenti. È sguardo credibile del male, della follia, perché sta effettivamente facendo una cosa disgustosa, anche se fa finta di pucciare il pipo in mezzo alle budella, cioè, non è il massimo, anche se ce lo sta mettendo veramente in mezzo agli effetti, quelle robe lì. Un sacco di malattie. Ma poi tu hai mai provato, non so, metterlo negli effetti speciali che crei?
Non che ricordi.
Ok, se vuoi provarci poi ci fai una recensione di come...
Agli abbonati, dei video del mio bene dentro a cose.
Quindi un motivo in più per abbonarsi è questo. E lui lo fa guardando a noi, cercando di smuovere compiutamente e con successo una nostra sensazione. Non è tanto quello che sta facendo che comunque colpisce, poteva essere anche un omicidio normale, ma è il come ci guarda. Infatti Vogel, furbo, lascia molto la camera sul suo sguardo, avvicinandosi anche, allontanandoci dal lato sessuale performativo e avvicinandoci alla parte del tutto del primo piano eisensteiniano. Come vedremo nell'intervista, Vogel è rimasto nell'orrore e nell'underground durante tutte le sue produzioni, fino all'ultima, risalente all'ormai lontano 2018, The Final Interview, che potete acquistare sul sito ufficiale a $10, è ambientato negli anni 90 ed è la storia di un crudele conduttore televisivo campione d'ascolti che intervista un omicida condannato a morte. Lo scontro televisivo diventa scontro nella realtà, nella loro realtà ovviamente. Anche questo dunque è un film che indaga il rapporto tra ciò che vediamo e ciò che è in realtà. Chi gestisce il media non cambia solo la percezione dell'intervistato, che ok è un assassino che ha avuto un raptus, già è orribile, che bisogno c'è di calcare la mano, ma soprattutto cambia la percezione dell'intervistatore. Senza accorgercene pensiamo di guardare le interviste per apprendere la vita degli intervistati, ma i veri protagonisti della nostra fruizione, che loro lo vogliano o meno, sono proprio i presentatori. Intervista. L'ho detto un po' troppe volte. Guardate la Fagnani, guardate il buon Dario Moccia, potrebbero portare sui loro canali anche la persona più noiosa del mondo e riuscire in qualche modo a tirar fuori roba interessante. Guardate in maniera più oscena e simile a dei final interview i programmi di cronaca nera. Ormai penso non ci sia più in TV, non so chi c'è al suo posto, ma Barbara D'Urso era la regina del protagonismo malsano, così come lo sono i programmi filofascisti di Rete 4 in cui l'invadenza caratteriale e ideologica del presentatore invade la scena, appunto, e di conseguenza invade la notizia, cambiando completamente la percezione della realtà che stanno raccontando. Questo è un atteggiamento che può essere generativo, come nel caso di Dario Moccia o David Letterman, o subdolo, come accade negli esempi che abbiamo appena fatto e in dei final interview, o può avere una valenza ambivalente, come nel caso della Fagnani. Durante il corso del film si svela cosa c'è dietro il tubo catodico, cosa si nasconde dietro la giacca e la cravatta di un simile presentatore. E qui, come nel finale, torna il Vogel che ci mostra il sudiciume, lo sporco. Ma ora basta. Meglio parlarne direttamente con il regista. Diamo tutti il benvenuto a Fred Vogel.
So, hello Fred, and welcome to Cinema degli Eccessi. Thank you so much for being here with us. It is an honor for us to have you as a guest tonight, in Italy's night.
Thank you very much for having me.
So we can start with the first question. We have seven questions from us and three from the public.
Okay.
The first one. In 2003, the second chapter of the August Underground trilogy raised the bar of what you can be represented in cinema, called by many the most extreme film ever. As you shot it, were you aware that you had gone too far? You want to make something extreme? Or did you just follow your inspiration?
We definitely went, we went all for it, and we were all in on making this probably like the most brutal and disturbing movie ever. I remember Killjoy from Necrophagia, he kept distilling like this movie should be the most depraved movie ever. And I think we accomplished that. I think it's pretty brutal. And I mean, that's why, 20 years later, it's still where it stands as one of the most disturbing movies ever made.
You were happy for this result at the time?
I mean, it's funny because, the first time you start showing the movie to people, you start getting these reactions. And August Underground's Mordum, people were just like, oh my God, I can't believe what I'm seeing. I remember when we finished shooting the end of the movie in the basement with the little girl in the bathtub and Shelby hanging upside down. I remember watching that and just being like, oh my God, like, I don't know where you go from there. I mean, I thought that was just the sickest shit I've ever seen. So, but we're very happy with the result because it provoked that emotion. We wanted to. You can't make a serial killer movie without making people feel that emotion, I believe. It needs to cut like a knife for to affect you, and I think it does.
The first time I saw the trilogy, I didn't like it at all. It seemed gratuitous and not very accurate from a technical point of view. Over the years, however, I have re-evaluated August Underground, and now for me it's the best snuff simulation ever made. It seems to see a real video shot by some crazy killers. How did you come up with this result? And what is the atmosphere on the set when you shoot such an extreme film?
So on the first August Underground, I knew that I wanted to make, this movie about following around this killer. And at the time in, 1999, 2000, 2001, pretty much all the movies that were shot on video, they look pretty shitty because we're so used to seeing, a movie shot on film. So I knew that we had to do something that, we were shooting on video, but, give the viewer something different to look at visually. And at the time, there really wasn't much of any kind of found footage. Blair Witch came out a year before in 1999. There was other movies that had similar found footage, segments in them, like Cannibal Holocaust or Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, which were all, huge influences. And I remember when we were casting August Underground, I would show people the home invasion scene from Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer and be like, this is the realism that I'm trying to achieve with this. And I believe that over the course of the 3 August Underground films, we really perfected that cinema verite style of realism, that you know, the effects are all done in one shot. There's no cutaways from the camera. We're really bringing you, the viewer, into the world of these maniacs. And that was, you know, that's a very hard goal to achieve, but I think, you know, that's kind of what toe tag built its foundation on. And we use that ever since in every single one of our movies, is to have that realism and have, you know, the violence looks like it hurts and not be funny at all. So let me ask you a question. So you said that, you know, you didn't like the movies at first. What made you, you know, change?
I watch it with another point of view. I feel it. The first time I don't feel the movie.
You grew up and you became more older.
Sure, sure.
And
now, was it, you know, they always talk about the hype, you know, oh my God, August Underground is the sickest movie. You go into thinking that this is going to be so disgusting, but like maybe, you know, sometimes you're like, wait a minute, this isn't that sick. And then a week later, you're still thinking about it because, again, you've never seen anything like that.
Yes.
I think that, you know, that's the power that the August Underground movies have, is that they marinate in your brain a little bit,
Okay.
you know, to where
Over the
sometimes
years.
it might take some time for it to sink in, but, you know, they're really effective in what they're meant to do.
Because I have to rewatch it when I wrote my book about extreme cinema, and then I like it. Maybe this is not my kind of gore, of extreme, but I feel it very much more than the first time, and I like it, the sensation, the disturbing effect, and I understood the technical point of view, the technical realization. I think is not too easy to realize a film like that.
No, it's not. Especially because we're trying to, one, not make it look like a movie at all.
Okay.
You know, that was the number one goal, is like, this cannot look like a movie. This has to look like a home video. It has to, that's why we show random things in between, because that's what you do when you're filming stuff, is like you turn the camera on and, oh, that's really cool, then you turn it off, and then you pick up a week later, a month later, and that's really cool. Everybody always says, oh, the August Underground movies don't have a plot. Well, they're not really supposed to have this, you know, intense plot like a traditional film. It's a home video, but it does have a plot. If you really listen and you really follow the characters, what they're saying, there's definitely a character arc. It's just not shoved down your throat like traditional cinema is.
And the atmosphere on the set with the actor, the actress.
So, you know, the atmosphere on the set is always fun. Everybody that was there in the movie wanted to be there. Nobody was there that didn't want to be there. The first one took a little persuading to kind of get people to understand what we were doing, and my resources were very limited. By the time we did August Underground's Mordum, people saw the first one and they were really intrigued to like step into that world. They're, you know, I think it was a little bit of their own, you know, a little bit of fear, a little bit of excitement, like what's it like being on a set like this? But at the end of the day, I'm an artist, I'm a director, I'm the producer, I'm the one that needs to make sure everything goes smooth. I don't want anybody to get hurt. I want to make sure everybody's, you know, has something to eat. I want to make sure that when it's all said and done, you're able to take a shower and wash the fake blood off. We always try to keep the atmosphere on the set. And then by the time we did the third one, that movie was just filled with so much love, because now the fan base got even bigger. And now you know, everybody that's a victim in the third one have all became friends because of the first two. So it was like my gift to them to be in the movie and let them live out that fantasy of being in an August Underground movie. And sometimes they didn't want to have their face shown because they have really important jobs, and that's when we put masks on people or hid their face or gave them different names. But when it all came down to it, it was all about the excitement of being in that world, of like stepping in that world and watching me be that character and interact with them.
most effective disturbing scene for me is when Maggot, I think is
Maggot, yes.
Maggot is fighting the chest, the belly of the dead girl, and he
Yeah.
look at the camera. That
Yes.
that eyes, these are, cioè, for me is the most powerful thing in the movie.
Yeah.
You stay at him with the camera.
Yes. No, that was important. Because the character, when you're filming that, you want, you have to remember you're in the mindset of the other people, the other sickos in the film. So we want to watch him finish. You know what I mean? Like he's fucking those guts. We want to get off too. We want him to finish and come, and it was just so, the whole situation is so disturbing. We build you up in that scene. It starts off with, a little bit of the roughhousing with the girls, and the vomit starts to happen. And then there's a guy dead in the corner. And then, when I smashed the girl in the face with the hammer and put the bag over her head. And we just build it up and build it up. And the crescendo is Maggot fucking that girl's stomach. And I mean, when you watch that scene, it feels like it's 4 hours long. It's just so intense, and you're literally right there with him, and he's looking at you, even though he's looking at us. But as a viewer, he was giving you the experience. Watch me, look what I'm doing. That's what these characters are all about. It's all how they get off to this kind of thing.
Sort of a contact in porn.
Yeah.
Yeah, voyeur, POV, porno.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Have you ever thought that someone might have masturbated with August Underground?
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. It's one of the reasons why Krusty left Toe Tag, was because a lot of fans had a hard time separating her from the character, and it would get a little creepy sometimes, And I think, when you have a female character that is so powerful, you know what I mean? She's an alpha male, she's just as bad as the boys are. And I think a lot of people that have that little bit of sick and twisted in the head, they kind of get off on that. But we open that door for you, you know what I mean? Like that movie opens the door for, for those fantasies. As much as we're trying to disturb you and persuade you from that, the August Underground movies I always looked at as our anti-violent films, because there's nothing funny about them. It's not like when you watch a Friday the 13th movie, you can watch a compilation of all the great kills. But you don't get that with the August Underground movies, because they're just the build up and how disturbing they are doesn't give you the same feeling as watching something like that. It's a totally different experience.
It's not funny. Friday
No,
it's funny.
Never meant to be funny. Especially when it comes down to even like in the first August Underground, when I kill the old woman and I take out her teeth and I play with it, it's funny to us. The two characters, but it's certainly not funny because you think about, oh my God, there's this 80-year-old woman who just got murdered, and you never seen anybody just ripping to go into her mouth and take out her teeth. Again, it's just making the situation so fucked up and so disturbing that it just gives you a completely different ride than watching a traditional horror film.
And how was your career between this trilogy and your last film? The Red Sin Tower is a very atypical and successful slasher. Masked, you go back to torture, while Sella Turcica has the family drama component. Let's talk about these three movies.
Yeah. So as an artist, I'm always trying to grow. So I didn't want to become the guy that just makes the snuff movies. It just so happened that, when you make a movie like August Underground, it becomes something bigger. And making August Underground's Mordum started out as a music video for Necrophagia. It was never meant to be a full feature. But once we started accumulating all this footage, it was like in our best interest to do it, because the word of mouth was starting to spread. And it was just like, we'd be foolish to not make a sequel to this. But between August Underground's Mordum and August Underground's Penance, I made the Redson Tower because I wanted to show people like, yo, I can make a movie. So again, I'm always trying to grow. The Redson Tower is my love for slasher films, and Jeremy Cruz, who does the special effects, it was, his love for possession movies. So we wanted to kind of mix that together. By the time we got to movies like Murder Collection and Maskhead and Cella Turcica, it was all trying to grow. I wanted to, by the time we got to Cella Turcica, I wanted to put in more dramatic flavor into the movies. So when the violence hits you, it just hits you, it makes you feel different. It's not a traditional horror film. I like having drama with horror, kind of like David Lynch and David Cronenberg.
Okay.
I think sometimes, the gore and the special effects is more effective when you have a drama as the base.
Yeah.
And then it came with, my latest movie, The Final Interview. It's just all about growing and trying different things and not relying on gore to tell my story. So I'm an artist that just wants to try different things and grow. I do not want to do the same thing. I could have made 50 August Underground movies, and that would have made people very happy. But creative for me, not really, because it's like I've made the sickest movies. Where do I go from there? Let somebody else make some, try some stuff. That's why film is so inspirational to so many of us. I'm inspired every day when I watch a movie.
Mm-hmm. And The Final Interview, your lastest beautiful movie, is a very different from the others, more dialogues based, is a camera thriller. Tell us a little about its origins and the realization. I think it's not easy to realize a movie like that.
I was trying to make bigger films, and when you try to make bigger films, you have to rely on other people's money. Before, it was always our money that made the movies. Trying to raise money for my next big movie fell through, and I needed to do something creatively. So I kind of went back to the drawing board and said, hey, what can I do on a smaller budget but still really try to grow, have bigger actors, tell a different story, use bigger set pieces, rely on different things, with great dialogue, and really trying to tell a story and not rely on the gore. So The Final Interview kind of stemmed from that. I learned so much. This was my first SAG movie, so I had real movie stars in the film. I had to get a trailer for my actors to stay in. I never had to do any of that before. Using, such great talent, it really showed me that, for the first time, I was able to truly direct, where I can kind of trust my actors and let them do their thing, and then be like, all right, bring that in a little bit, or that's too much. Where on the other films, I had to be so hands-on because the actors were so inexperienced. At least in the August Underground films, like, I would have to turn up the juice with my acting to get the performances that I wanted. But where The Final Interview, these people were just so fantastic that it was very easy, and I enjoyed it very much. And it gave me the opportunity to shoot a movie, like a period piece, because it takes place in the early 1980s, and work really hard to try to make the sets look really great. There weren't many of them, but when we did have them, I wanted them to really feel like you were in a prison, or any of the set pieces just looked, authentic.
Question. When you talk with new actors, and then and that new actors doesn't know you, how do you explain what did you do in the past? What you done in the past?
So this is a big thing. Is like, you need to know how to separate the art from the artist.
Okay.
And I'm certainly not the guy that cuts off nipples and smears shit in it in real life. I am an artist. I'm a very kind person. I'm always looking out for my talent when I'm making a movie. So when they meet me, of course, I'm sure they look me up, and anytime you look me up, it has people's opinions about me, and Fred is crazy, or his movies are so sick, or whatever. But when people get the chance to know me, they realize this is just the way that I express myself through my art. It's really important for me to break bread, go out to eat and talk to the actors and just get a chance to know each other on a more of a personal level. because when you're making a movie, it's all hands on deck. Everybody's working very hard.
Yeah.
And even on the final interview, all my movie stars wanted to, hang out with the crew. They wanted to be with the team because they saw the family vibe that I create on set. My movies are the crew is very small. Everybody's in the right position. There's no extra fat. It's very streamlined and very focused. And I want to get things done, and I don't want to waste anybody's time because I want to go home and get some rest too because it's a long day.
Absolutely.
So it all just comes with the territory of like letting them know me, letting them meet everybody who's going to be working, and then I always have a huge party when the movie's finished, a big let it all out, just have a great time and be yourselves, and we just went through war together, making the movie, because making a movie is very difficult. It's not an easy thing.
In the final interview, two different evils collide, an unscrupulous interviewer and a serial killer. Tell us about this choice.
When you have two heads talking, you don't want it to get boring. So, there needs to be that conflict. And when coming up with the story, it was all about who is the real evil person. Is it the guy on death row? So he's not a serial killer, he's a spree killer. There's a difference. He has a moment where he snaps and then he goes out and does what he does. Oliver Ross, who is the journalist, he is just a horrible person. He hasn't had the snapping moment where he wants to kill people, even though he had his thing in the war, what he saw. But I wanted the audience to kind of like not know who the bad guy was. They're both bad. They're both bad. And that just makes for an interesting story. I don't like happy endings. I always want to have you thinking about my movies, and I want you to think about them days later. So I try really hard to make my stories just be kind of fucked up and sick in a weird sort of way,
And what do you think about the recent diffusion of true crime? It's like a gossip.
It's sensationalism, honestly. It's people like right now in America, the Menendez brothers, they're trying to get them out of prison. What happened to them was horrible with their, the molestation charges that they say happened, but these guys also murdered their parents. Yeah. So it's a double-edged sword, but, we as a society, we're fascinated by, these people we see on TV, these monsters, we just become infatuated with, those kind of stories. And especially when you have now movies being made about Jeffrey Dahmer or the Menendez brothers or Richard Ramirez, Charles Manson, they're so ingrained in pop culture that you don't realize what these people did. Yeah. Like when I made August Underground, one of the main reasons why I made it was I was teaching at the time, and some of my students were writing to serial killers, and I was like, guys, you don't get it. Like, what if this guy killed your sister? How would you feel about, people gawking over that and, I got to have a Charles Manson letter, I got to have a Richard Ramirez autograph or a John Gacy painting. You have to step back and look at that. I understand how interesting it is because you're not that person. You don't have those tendencies. Only, 2% of, people out there murder people. The rest of us, are able to control ourselves. Sometimes you can live that fantasy by reading or listening to podcasts or watching movies about that kind of stuff.
So, 3 films that shocked you.
3 films that shocked me. I'm going to have to say I Spit on Your Grave. I saw it very young.
Yeah.
And, when Camille Keaton cuts off that guy's dick in the bathtub, as a little kid, that was pretty disturbing. Todd Phillips, the director of The Joker, he made his first documentary was on Gigi Allen.
Yeah.
And Gigi Allen Hated was a movie that really shocked me because when I first saw the movie in 1996, Gigi just died, like 2 years prior. So it was really fresh, and I didn't know who Gigi Allen was until I saw that documentary, and I couldn't believe like this guy, the stuff that he would do, you know. So that was really shocking and real. You know, this is a real guy. This is a guy taking performance art and
Yeah.
punk rock to a whole new level. And then I'm gonna have to go with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know, you can see the stuff behind me. I have a Texas Chainsaw Massacre themed dining room. You know,
Yeah.
um, but the first time I saw that, it was terrifying. You know, it was truly terrifying. The sound of the saw to this big giant man coming after you in the woods. Uh, you know, my character in August Underground has a little bit of Leatherface in there, you know, a little inspiration for sure. But those are definitely the movies that shock. I mean, there's lots of scenes that shocked me, you know, like you watch a movie and there's something that pops up and you're like, oh my God, like that was, you know, that's crazy. I love when that happens because just when you think you're safe or you're on that roller coaster ride, you get fucking derailed and there's something that's just so gut wrenching, you know, it lives with you. So.
Let's move on the question of our most loyal subscribers. So, Diego Scambri asks, do you think that you as a director and we as spectators who are almost excited to see this boundary between reality and fiction getting thinner and thinner are walking on the thin line between arts and profession? Writing and shooting these films, how much have you had to empathize on how much have you come into contact with this kind of perversion?
So, anytime that you're dealing with, especially if we're talking about the August Underground films, they are art films. Like the heart behind them, as me as a filmmaker, is art. The context of the movie is perversion. You know, sex and violence is really the makeup of these killers. You know, um, my character in the movie is very sexual driven. And by the time I'm in the third one, you know, there's the infamous Christmas scene where I'm trying to rape a woman by the Christmas tree, and I can't get aroused anymore. Things aren't arousing me anymore. The rape, the murder, that kind of stuff doesn't do it for me. You know, in the first August Underground, you know, you see it. Like I get the blowjob from the prostitute and I kill her. The end of the movie, I'm like, you know, smashing a girl's head in while I'm doing her doggy style. It's all sexual acts of perversion, you know, mixed with that violence to get that guy off. And that is a huge, huge element to a lot of these criminals out there who have murdered. It's being sexually driven. You know, it's a runaway train for some of these people. They don't know how to control themselves, and like once you get further and further down to that deep dark world, eventually, you know, choking your girlfriend while you're banging her is one thing, but then, you know, ending her life is a complete other. You know, and that's where it just keeps going and escalating and escalating. But I hope that answers the question a little bit.
So the second is from El Puma Cabron that asks, after shooting your controversial trilogy, what feedback have you been received over the years from audience, directors, producer, or from the film world in general? Did you have difficulties with this following project?
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, again, the August Underground movies are 20 years old, and I've gotten, you know, very well respected by my other filmmaker friends because of the art that I've made. You know, where some people are afraid to go there, I've always went. You know, I've never been afraid to go there and stand up for my art and protect it. You know, when I was arrested in Canada for it, when my movies are banned in different countries, I don't shy away from it. You know, those are movies made by a guy in his 20s who was hungry and who loved special makeup effects and wanted to make the most disturbing movies and really push the envelope and give fans of extreme cinema these films. This is my gift for the people who want to see something a little bit more extreme than A Nightmare on Elm Street. You know, Once you get past the I Spit on Your Graves and The Last House on the Lefts and the Henrys, and where do you go next? You go to August Underground, you go to Martyrs, you go to Serbian film. There's these certain films out there that aren't they don't compromise the violence. And over the years, I was able to always embrace that and kind of inspire a lot of these films that push the envelope like that. How Henry, inspired me, and Man Bites Dog inspired me.
Do you like a Serbian film?
I like aspects of Serbian film. It's a little too polished for me. But there's definitely certain aspects of the film that I think are really great, and I admire Serjan for what he did. Again, you have an American making movies like the August Underground. We're totally different than the way a Serbian would make a movie. We have different mindsets, we have different cultures, and I'm not Serbian, so I don't know those things. But all I know is that in America, what I did was pretty fucking extreme. And going there, not many people would even have the balls to do something like that, to show what I show. You don't see many movies with babies in garbage cans with maggots all over them. You don't see fucking somebody's guts till they come. You don't see those things. I had to put those things in my movies to make you believe what you're watching is real, and watching how these sick fucks really live.
There is a film for you that is more disturbing than August Underground.
Okay, so at that moment in time, there's a movie that I didn't know existed called Scrapbook, directed by Eric Stanzi. Now, I saw one of Eric's short films because there was this really great video store in Pittsburgh, and they carried a lot of underground films.
Yeah.
So that's where I first discovered like Jim Van Beber and Andy Kopp and Eric Stanzi. But I never saw Scrapbook. So when I made August Underground, the movies that really influenced me were Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, Man Bites Dog, Cannibal Holocaust. And then when August Underground comes out, everybody starts comparing it to this movie Scrapbook. So that's when I saw Scrapbook, and I was like, oh my God, like, this guy and I are kind of on the same page, So after I saw that, I was really impressed, what Eric did. And, it's funny because Eric and I are really good friends, and we both have grown so much as filmmakers. We both work on big studio movies when we're not making our own independent films. And, when I was making a movie, he was making a movie. We just kept kind of like growing. It's hard for us independent guys to make movies. I have so much respect for, what Eric has done, and, the legacy that he has with his films too,
Last question. I think you already answered this question, but Gabba 1983 asks, I want to be very curious to know, since you were very young, how do you see your trilogy now? And if you would make it different, or if as an adult you still feel that kind of direction?
I don't know if I would make the trilogy now. Okay. As a 48-year-old man. When I was 24 years old, that was a whole different story. I always kind of equate it to punk music. When you're a punk rocker,
yeah.
Okay. You're young, you're full of piss and vinegar, you don't mind getting into a fight every once in a while. You're not afraid to...
Then you grow up.
You're not afraid, Yeah. As we get older, every little decision can change your life, and you have to really start thinking about these kind of moves that you're making. And
the world changes.
And the world changes too. It's just like, would the movies be effective now? It's really funny because now that Unearthed Films released the August Underground movies on these beautiful Blu-rays, I have a whole new fan base of young people, 15 years old, that are watching it at sleepovers, and especially a lot of girls. A lot of young girls really love the movies, and they'll send me messages like, I showed this to my girlfriend and we stayed up all night watching your movies. And it's really cool to me because when I was younger,
It's like an experience to see your movie.
it is. Faces of Death was my movie. You know, that's what I would take to a friend's house on a, you know, and be like, "You guys want to watch something fucked up?" And we would watch Faces of Death, or we would watch Last House on the Left, and or Fulci Zombie. And you know, now August Underground, and you know, my all of my movies have become that. They've become that, like, oh, you got to see these movies, and I find that very cool and very humbling because as an artist, you never know what your film is going to do or what kind of mark it's going to make. And I mean, there's people who make their first movie for $20 million that nobody remembers.
Yeah.
You know, my first movie was made for $1,500, and it's still talked about and revered and shocking people, you know, all these years later. So I'm very thankful. And it just goes to show, you know, when you make art, when there's no, I'm gonna get rich from this. I never thought I was ever gonna get rich from making an August Underground movie. You know, I wanted to make something that was different. I wanted to, you know, and again, like now we see all these videos and TikToks and, you know, everything looks like an August Underground movie. You know what I mean? You're just like, when you're seeing something kind of fucked up like that, and it's still relevant. You know, it hasn't gotten like, oh, that's old looking. You know, we don't watch that. You could show August Underground to somebody right now, and it doesn't have to be, you know, 24 years ago. You know, it could be now.
Your next projects?
Ooh, so right now you know, I was really hoping to make something in 2025, but I work on a TV show right now,
Really?
called Mara Kingstown with Jeremy Renner,
Okay.
and it's really hard for me to get away from the work, you know, to find the time to make something. But I have 4 scripts that are done, and maybe when we break after the season, I'd love to try to get something going. It's just a lot harder when you have a mortgage and car payments and family and things like that to take the 2 weeks off, the 3 weeks off, and then it's the whole year of editing and getting it all together. It's just very hard. My business partner Jeremy with Toe Tag lives in Los Angeles, so you know, getting all of us together to do it is very difficult. That's why when I made the final interview, it wasn't a Toe Tag movie; it was a Fred Vogel movie because I couldn't get all the pieces of Toe Tag together at that time. Well, you know, when Toe Tag makes a movie, it's punk rock. We're not getting paid. We're staying up all night. Like you know, it's hardcore. You know, now to get Jeremy to fly here from Los Angeles, you know, he still has a rent to pay. He still has all the stuff that he has to do, and I have the same thing. I just can't take that time off.
With all the problem that are now in Los Angeles with fire.
Yeah, I just talked to him, and he had to evacuate where he was living. So it's very scary. You know, those fires are horrible out there. And you know, there was a moment in time where you know, my wife and I were going to move out to California, but we've always decided to stay in Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh is like the home of George Romero and Tom Savini, and now it's, you know, Toe Tag. Toe Tag is from Pittsburgh. You know, I believe that's part of our catalyst. That what makes it special is, you know, where we show our movies and where they come from. They're birthed here. You know.
And the first script of these 4 you want to realize?
Oh, I mean, I have my Frankenstein movie.
Okay.
I have my the movie that I was going to make before the final interview, which is called Pittsburgh Body Removal. I've been trying to get that made for fucking, oh my God, I can tell you how many years. It's just a big undertaking. I have a Christmas horror movie, like a Santa Claus killer film that I'd love to do. And the one that I'm working on right now is a very voyeuristic film about a guy who is obsessed with the girl across the street that he can't get to. So it gets really, really dark, you know, but that's something that I'm designing to make for a smaller budget to where I can hopefully get that done, and hopefully that could be the next Toe Tag movie.
Okay.
Okay.
We have finished.
We're finished?
Yeah.
Oh,
If you want to say something else, if you want to say where you can watch maybe the final interview, feel
Sure.
free to say everything you want.
okay. Well, thank you very much, guys, for having me on. And right now, you can get the August Underground trilogy on Blu-ray from Unearthed Films. You can get them pretty much anywhere you buy fucked up movies. So, you know, everywhere from Toe Tag, you can get them at Toe Tag. They come with a signed poster by me. If you do, you can get them from Unearthed Films. You can get them from specialty boutique DVD resellers. And then the final interview, my latest movie, you can get from thefinalinterviewmovie.com. It's available on a digital download, and it's also available in a very limited Blu-ray DVD soundtrack release that I only did 1,983 units of. So I recommend you getting the physical copy, because with a lot of my films, they go out of print and you can't get them.
Yeah.
And then when you want them, you're paying $400 for them. So you get it now for $50 instead of all that. So, and then yeah, that's it. I appreciate everybody who digs my art. And I'm really trying, guys, to get that next one off the ground. It's kind of difficult, and I don't like asking for help. You know, I've never been one that's like, I'm gonna do these big crowdfundings or anything like that. I feel like I make my movies for you, so let me put in all that stress, to try to find and get that money together. So, as an artist, I want to use my own paints.
Yeah. We hope you can realize all the movie you want to realize.
And
I hope so, man.
You want to
You know
come
what?
to Italy one day? Remember, I'm an actor, so
Yeah, I love Italy. I was
shoot together something.
yeah, no. Last time I was in Italy was in 2003. I had such a great time.
Where?
I was on tour with the band Necrophagia, and we were in Roma.
Okay.
And I got to go to Dario Argento's the Profondo Rosso.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was very cool. So it's just with the climate right now, with the world going on, it's harder for me to get out there and travel the way that I'd like to.
Okay. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you, guys.
And
All
bye.
right, you have a great day.
Ringraziamo tutti Fred nei commenti per questa bellissima intervista, è un patatino, è stato gentilissimo. E veniamo alla scheda del film e all'eccessometro di The Final Interview, quella di August l'abbiamo già fatta. Budella 2 su 5, qualcosa troviamo anche qui. Violenza psicologica 2 su 5, le torbide personalità dei due si fanno sentire. Marciume 3 su 5, Fred è sempre Fred. Weird 1 su 5, non è di quei film stranissimi, anzi è abbastanza classico. Trash 1 su 5 per alcune parti recitative e per il finale che secondo me caga un pochino fuori dal vasino. L'eccessometro per The Final Interview segna un 71%. Mr. Vogel è diventato decisamente più raffinato. Se ti è piaciuto The Final Interview, devi assolutamente vedere Alexandra's Project di Rolf De Heer, un film del regista di Bad Boy Baby, un film totalmente fuori di testa, inaspettato, un thriller da camera meraviglioso. Poi Hard Candy, come dice il titolo, film durissimo sull'argomento della pedofilia con Elliot Page, e infine Matar a Dios, film che io e Simo abbiamo visto a un festival sperduto nei meandri di Padova, anche questo un thriller da camera veramente originale e ben fatto. E con questo, cari pagliacci, abbiamo concluso questa scoppiettante E con questo, cari pagliacci, abbiamo concluso la prima scoppiettante puntata, anzi la puntata 0 di Cinema degli Eccessi 3. Noi ci vediamo con i pollicioni di Simo che danno l'ok, danno l'approvazione a questa puntata 0 settimana prossima, può essere di sì, sicuramente settimana prossima. Con cosa? Con Terrifier 3, come Cinema degli Eccessi 3, perché 3 è il numero perfetto.
Che schifo. Si vede che questa cosa la sono preparata. Quanto vado a braccio per il video, fa schifo. Ciao ragazzi, buona serata, buongiorno, tutto.
Il cinema sia con voi, insomma, quella roba lì.
Nella prossima puntata di Cinema degli Eccessi.